may have heard of the multinational company Thomson Reuters. It owns the Reuters Newswire, and it also has a huge legal database, and it's a data broker that collects vast amounts of personal information. But some Thomson Reuters employees are concerned that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement may be using the company's products unlawfully. NPR's Jude Joffe-Block has more.
Billy Little worked for Thomson Reuters for close to 2 decades. Her job was in legal publishing. But she'd heard a little about her company's investigative tools, mostly that they were used by law enforcement to catch serious bad guys.
To go after like human traffickers or for child exploitation and those types of things. So that was all to the good, and I could feel good about that, right?
But Little's feelings about those products began to shift this winter as federal immigration agents surged in the Twin Cities area where Thomson Reuters has a large office. Videos like this one, published by the New York Post, showed people dragged out of their cars by ICE agents. And after Renee Macklin-Good and Alex Preddy were both fatally shot by federal agents, Little heard from her Minnesota colleagues that they were scared.
People afraid to go to work, people afraid to take their kids to school, people being followed.
Then a post was shared on an employee chat that said Thomson Reuters is a top corporate collaborator with ICE.
And after that post, everybody was kind of like, what? There was a lot of confusion, anger, concern.
Management shut down the comments on the post, Little says, but she and others looked into it. ICE uses a Thomson Reuters investigative product called Clear. It aggregates billions of private and public records on people, including vehicle registration records and images from license plate readers.
I'd heard that companies saying that the tools weren't being used to locate undocumented workers that haven't committed crimes. But it was clear from the numbers of people that were being arrested and detained, I believe that that couldn't be true.
Plus, NPR and other media have reported on how federal agents have seemingly used license plate data to identify and intimidate protesters and observers. Little helped form a committee of concerned employees. In February, they sent management a letter flagging that federal agents might be using the company's technology unlawfully by skirting sanctuary and privacy laws as well as constitutional protections. The letter got an initial response, Little says.
They called us brave for bringing it up to their attention.
But then nothing happened. No answers were provided. No meetings were scheduled, she says. A few days after the New York Times wrote about the employees' efforts in March, Little says HR called her in.
Instead of addressing our concerns, they turned toward investigating me.
She was fired a few days later. Last week, Little filed a lawsuit against the company, accusing them of violating a law in her home state of Oregon that bars companies from firing whistleblowers. An unnamed Thomson Reuters spokesperson told NPR in an email it would be inappropriate to comment on an individual employment matter, but wrote, "We strongly dispute the allegations and intend to robustly defend the case." The spokesperson wrote the company takes employee concerns seriously and provides clear channels to raise issues, and that the company takes seriously the legality and legitimacy of their products. Meanwhile, a Canadian union that is a Thomson Reuters shareholder has recently revived its own related concerns.
We have been engaging with the company since 2020 about its contracts with ICE.
Emma Pullman is the head of shareholder engagement at the British Columbia General Employees Union.
The questions that Billy Little was asking of her employer weren't all that different from the questions that we as a long-term shareholder have been asking.
The union recently filed a formal shareholder proposal to commission an independent human rights assessment into how Thomson Reuters products are used by law enforcement and immigration authorities. As for Billy Little, she says she hopes to raise awareness about the privacy and civil liberties concerns she has about how Americans' personal data is being used. Jude Joffe-Block, NPR News.
It's a bloodbath in big tech, and you can blame artificial intelligence for it. Layoffs across the tech industry have accelerated this year. Companies are no longer just cutting costs. They are rewriting how work gets done. Instead of hiring more people, they are building leaner teams, where AI tools do more with fewer humans. More than 73,000 jobs have been wiped out in the first quarter alone. across 95 companies, and the job cuts are far from over. While each company has its own reasons, from cost-cutting to restructuring, there is one common thread, and that is a deeper, more aggressive pivot towards AI. Let's start with the latest. Meta is preparing for a fresh wave of layoffs, with the first round expected around the 20th of May. The company, which owns Facebook and Instagram, plans to cut about 10% of its global workforce. That's close to 8,000 employees in just the first phase. And more cuts could follow later this year. Reports suggest executives may even adjust the scale based on how fast AI capabilities evolve. If and when this goes through, it would be Meta's biggest round of layoffs since its 2022-2023 restructuring. That is when it cut about 21,000 jobs during what it called the year of efficiency. But this time the company is financially stronger. So it's not about survival. CEO Mark Zuckerberg is investing heavily in AI. He's building systems that can write code and execute complex tasks autonomously. And Meta is not alone. Across big tech, this is the story. Technology company Snap Inc. is cutting around 1,000 jobs. That's nearly 16% of its workforce. CEO Evan Spiegel says AI is helping automate repetitive tasks and speed up operations. The company is also eliminating hundreds of unfilled roles, signaling a hiring freeze. Amazon has already trimmed about 30,000 corporate jobs as it streamlines operations and doubles down on AI. Oracle, founded by Larry Ellison, has cut between 20,000 to 30,000 jobs as it pours investment into AI infrastructure. Singapore-based Crypto.com has laid off 12% of its staff, with CEO Chris Marsalik saying these were roles that he says, and I'm quoting here, do not adapt in our new world. Software company Atlassian has cut about 1,600 jobs, around 10% of its workforce, to self-fund AI investments. Co-founder Mike Cannon-Brookes says, and I'm quoting again, people and AI together will drive the best outcomes. Fintech company Block Inc. has also slashed jobs, citing efficiency gains from AI. And the list goes on. From Salesforce to Pinterest to WiseTech Global, companies are cutting jobs with an aim to redirect the money into AI-driven roles. Now, this isn't just a wave of layoffs that we're talking about. We're talking about people with degrees, with student loans, home loans. They're all being let go. And that constant threat of job loss. And even if you escape the job cut, you're left with survivor's guilt. It is the stress felt by employees who keep their jobs. Can you imagine? But watch colleagues around them lose their jobs. That is what's causing survivor's guilt. The fear of being next. The pressure to do more with less. The constant uncertainty. It's now taking a serious toll on mental health. Take a look at the numbers on your screens right now. Employee health platforms are reporting a 4-fold spike in telehealth consultations for mental health issues. 77% of these cases are from employees aged 21 to 30. Studies also show up to 80% of IT professionals report feeling stressed, and over 70% show symptoms of conditions like depression, insomnia, and anxiety. The shift to AI isn't just changing how companies operate, it's changing how employees see themselves. Many now feel their skills are becoming obsolete. And who is most at risk? Young professionals. Early career employees are facing a loss of confidence and rising anxiety in an increasingly competitive job market, that is. A 2026 study found 44% of Gen Z employees admit that they've actively sabotaged instead of embracing the AI initiatives taken by their companies out of fear of losing their jobs. This is the new reality of big tech. Leaner teams, smarter systems, and harder questions. Because in the end, the future of work will not just be determined by what AI can do. It will be defined by what happens to the people it replaces. The view from the front lines of AI is sobering. The question now is, can we get the human part right?
12 News broke the story of a Brookfield dance studio's abrupt closure, leaving parents out thousands of dollars. Tonight, 12 News investigates and covers court records showing a trail of financial trouble. 12 News' Kendall Keys has a story tonight from Brookfield.
Take a look inside Brio Studios. The lights are off and the floors are empty when typically there'd be classes happening right now. We're learning the studio has money problems that date back far beyond its Wednesday shutdown. Beth Mandel's daughter Sophia has been dancing at Brio Studios for 6 years.
She's on a performance team. They do a lot of competitions throughout the year.
It's a popular dance studio and it's pricey. 12 News obtained a handbook for their national team, some parents handing over more than $16,000 a season.
We had just been asked as recently as Sunday for another $2,000.
Mandel saying they bought in, then came the studio-wide email Wednesday. It says the owner's husband and business partner was diagnosed with cancer. And, quote, in light of this and the financial strains we faced, I've had to make the heartbreaking decision to close Brio Studios. The email closes with, I will no longer be able to respond to personal texts, calls, or emails. For the second day in a row, 12 News tried to get a hold of the owners. Without any luck. 12 News learning the studio has been struggling to stay in step with its finances for months. In Waukesha County courts, the State Department of Revenue noting $13,000 in delinquent taxes, and the Department of Workforce Development hitting them up for $14,000 in late workers' compensation payments. Pius High School sued the studio in August, saying they never paid for rehearsal space totaling more than $13,000. Another lawsuit orders the dance studio and owners to pay more than $100,000 that they borrowed from an Illinois couple last year. Mandel wants to know, where did her money go?
We've been completely ghosted, so that money is gone.
In Brookfield, Kendall Keys, WISN 12 News.
Brookfield police tell 12 News they have at least 2 complaints about the studio's abrupt closure.
Code doesn't say nothing against somebody going into business. That's, going into business is just going into business. That's all. If you can find a business to go into where you can make some money. I mean, there are some black people who are in business.
In his heyday, the black media mogul John H. Johnson reached millions with his iconic magazines, Ebony and Jet. His wife, Eunice, founded the Ebony Fashion Fair and the beauty line of the same name. Now their granddaughter, Alexa Rice, is making her own way in the beauty business decades later. WBEZ contributor Ellie Fishman and producer Minju Park visited the millennial entrepreneur in her Gold Coast home.
Hello. How are you? It is crazy foggy out. We're going to go to the left.
I'm meeting Rice at her beautiful apartment in the Gold Coast, where she lives with her mom, Linda Johnson Rice. When we step off the elevator, Rice swings open the door and shows producer Minju Park and me inside. Rice takes us to the family den. She calls it the media room. It's got a big flat-screen TV and a taxidermy tiger rug on the wall. This was once Rice's grandparents' place, but she grew up 10 floors up. So as a kid, she spent a lot of time in this apartment. She has a lot of memories here.
So you must have spent a lot of time in this apartment.
A lot. Absolutely, for sure. It was really nice having them in the same building. Always a treat to see Nana and Papa. Because I could always pop down and see them, so it was fun to have that relationship, be so close all the time. I remember my granddad would sit here. Mom has fond memories of him sitting in his chair with his feet on the table watching Murder, She Wrote. That was one of his favorites. My grandmother died in 2010, so we moved in not too soon after she passed. It looks a bit different, but some things have stayed the same. We're a house of maximalists for sure. Yes, there's cheetahs, there's leopards, there's tigers, yeah.
There's also a lot of family history on the walls.
So this wall is fun, leading up to my mom's office. So here you can see this is my granddad, John H. Johnson, with JFK holding an ebony with Frederick Douglass on the cover. Oh, then we've got some fashion. So here's Nana with a very young Karl Lagerfeld when he was at Chloe. And then with Yves Saint Laurent here, which is great. So this room's got the most history, I'd say. Do you want to sit? We can sit. Yeah.
Let's sit. We settle back into the TV room.
Figure we do the interview in here.
And I find myself wondering if, as a kid, Rice understood the scope of her family's influence. So I ask how she understood her grandparents' role in shaping Chicago into a center of Black culture in America.
Ebony and Jet, of course, global, but always very proud to have it in Chicago, to have the headquarters here. I would say my grandparents absolutely helped to shape the Black cultural identity of Chicago. I always knew it was a big deal, but in terms of really changing kind of the fabric of this country, that took, I think, more of an objective eye I didn't cultivate until later. Because of who my family was, I'm like 10 years old and I know who Valentino is. That's not normal, but that's what I was around. I was reading Ebony, I was reading Vogue, I was reading Bazaar, all the fashion stuff. And the beauty stuff too, Allure. I loved it all. It was that aspect of self-creation that even when I was little, I really, really identified with. My grandmother started Fashion Fair Cosmetics. That's where I'd say I got most of my knowledge from in terms of the beauty business, because I would always see them picking the packaging, going through shades, going through naming, figuring out what looks great on black skin. And so that was really formative. Fashion Fair ended up being purchased by Desiree Rogers and Cheryl McKissick out of bankruptcy, which was totally legal, but it came as a devastating shock. My mom had been very good friends with these women for years. They had an agreement that neither of them would bid to try and buy Fashion Fair. Unbeknownst to my mom, she did not find this out until they kind of show up on the day, and that's how they ended up with the business. I could not believe it. I was devastated. I was heartbroken.
We reached out to Rogers and McKissick for comment. Rogers wrote in an email, "JPC no longer owned the company when we bid on it. We were surprised and delighted that our bid was selected and that Fashion Fair would remain in the hands of African Americans."
You can own the business, sure, but you can't own my grandmother. That's not how things work. It doesn't just pass to you. That was something that she gave to me, through her time and her love and her being my family. So in that way, I feel privileged to own this legacy that I can now take into something that I know she would be very, very proud of. And so for me, starting Beach Beauty, it's a way to feel closer to my family, my grandmother specifically, and it's a way for me to continue our family legacy. My grandmother's and my mom's beauty tastes definitely got passed down to me. The maximalism extends to the face. This whole clean girl aesthetic, it's just not for me. I don't know her. I wish her luck. So for me, it's bold color. I do want things that are going to show up on the skin. I want to take into account as many skin tones as possible. So the first product is lip gloss. As my mom always says, a good lip will give a lift to the face.
As for what comes next, Rice is focused on getting Beach Beauty off the ground. It's a way for her to feel closer to her grandparents and build something that's her own, too.
At one point, you start to think, I guess I have to launch something as big and important as Ebony and Jet were. Okay, hold up. Maybe I can be a little easier on myself. Do the things that I want to do, but that still honor my grandparents.
For WBEZ, I'm Ellie Fishman.
The story was produced by Minju Park. To read more and see family photos, you can check out WBEZ.org. You're listening to WBEZ.
You're fired.
Hey feds, did you know that a new lawsuit says that 75% of black officials leading independent federal agencies have been fired under this administration compared to 27% of white officials? And did you know that one of them just used a legal tool from medieval England to fight back? Let me explain what's happening because I think this case matters to every federal employee. Alvin Brown is a black man with a long career in public service. He's the first black mayor of Jacksonville, Florida. He served as a senior advisor at the Department of Transportation. In 2024, the Senate unanimously confirmed him to the National Transportation Safety Board, the independent agency that investigates plane crashes, train derailments, pipeline explosions, for a term that doesn't expire until December 31st, 2026. On May 5, 2025 at 6:57 p.m., Brown received a 3-sentence email from the White House Deputy Director of Presidential Personnel, read the actual filing. The email said, and this is essentially the whole thing, on behalf of President Donald J. Trump, I'm writing to inform you that your position on the National Transportation Safety Board is terminated effective immediately. Thank you for your service. No reason, no allegation of inefficiency, no allegation of neglect, no allegation of malfeasance, just you're done. Well, here's the problem. Under federal law, and specifically 49 USC 1111C, the president can only remove an NTSB board member for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. Congress put that protection there on purpose. The NTSB investigates crashes. It needs to be independent and can't function if the president can fire board members for political reasons, and the president gave no reason at all. And here's where it gets deeper. At the time Brown was fired, there were 4 other board members, all white. 2 were Democrats, 2 were Republicans. Brown was the only black member. If the goal was to gain Republican control over the board, the president could have removed one of the white Democrats, including one whose term had already expired. Instead, he removed the one black member who was midterm, and then he nominated a white man, John DeLulu, I'm saying that wrong, to fill Brown's seat. The complaint lays out a pattern. According to filing, approximately 75% of black officials leading independent multi-member agencies have been removed under this administration. Only about 27% of white officials on those same types of agencies were removed. The lawsuit names 6 black members of the independent agencies who were fired at the NLRB, the EEOC, the Federal Reserve, the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, and the Surface Transportation Board. The Library of Congress, a black woman was removed. The chairman of Joint Chiefs, a black man, was replaced by a white man who didn't meet the statutory requirements without a presidential waiver. Seems like a pattern. So Brown is making 2 legal arguments in the case. First, his removal violated the statute because the president had no cause. Second, his removal violated the 5th Amendment's equal protection guarantee because it was motivated by race. Now, what is a writ of quo warranto? That's what I was talking about earlier from medieval English. Here's your plain English explanation. Quo warranto is Latin. It means by what authority. It's a legal proceeding where someone asks a court to determine whether a person holding a public office actually has the legal right to hold it. Brown is saying, I was never lawfully removed. My term runs through December 2026. The guy who's supposed to replace me is sitting in my seat, so I'm asking this court to determine who has the legal right to that office. Brown actually wrote to the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney first because under the statute they get the first opportunity to bring this kind of action. He gave them to April 3rd to respond. They never responded. So now Brown is petitioning the court directly, as the law allows an interested person to do. Here's why this matters to every federal employee. The independence of agencies like the NTSB exists for a reason. When a president can fire board members without cause and replace them at will, the agency stops being independent. And the racial discrimination claim adds a dimension that goes beyond any single agency. If the data in this complaint holds up and it's detailed, sourced, and specific, it raises the question of whether the pattern of removals across the entire federal government at this level has a discriminatory component that courts will need to address.
I can feel it deep inside, this black nigger's pride. I have no fear when I say, and I say it every day, every nigger is a star. Every nigger is a star. Who will deny that you and I and every nigger is a star?
Now here it is, September 30th. Look, man, I'm going to the bathroom and I gotta look at white power. You know, like, that's not cool.
A man suing his former employer, a construction company that helped build several properties on the Strip, including Resorts World and the Sphere. Thanks for staying with us at 4:30. I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Vanessa Murphy. He's claiming as an employee he experienced racial discrimination and retaliation. 8 News Now reporter Joshua Piguero joins us live with the details. Joshua.
Harris Las Vegas has had a hand on the construction of several Las Vegas Strip properties, including the Sphere, which is right behind me. But its work on the Sphere sparked a lawsuit from a former employee who claims he was retaliated for reporting racial abuse.
I'm expected to come to work with a positive attitude, smile every day. You know what I mean?
Aaron Ridge is showing us documents he's collected over the years since his construction career ended in the fall of 2023. What led to this was when he found this noose on August 25th, 2021, while working on the Sphere.
It was just devastating to see it. All type of things is just running through my head. I'm like, oh my God. Because it's like, how did nobody see this? And there's so many employees, but yet nobody saw who hung this.
MSG Entertainment, which owns the Sphere, issued a statement at the time saying, "This disgusting and vile act is completely unacceptable, and we are working with local authorities to identify who is responsible so that appropriate action can be taken." A noose was also found the year before at the construction site of what's now Resorts World. But the actions at the Sphere led to several other events that left Ridge unemployed and him filing a federal lawsuit.
Since the noose was hung on August 25th, it ain't supposed to be none of this. I wasn't supposed to see this September 30th.
These are pictures Ridge says he took of racist graffiti on the porta potty. White power was first written, but then it was crossed out to N-word power. Ridge's lawsuit included counts of racial discrimination and hostile work environment, but those are gone. A judge tossed them out, but kept the retaliation claim. Now, Ridge tells me he hopes that with his lawsuit, no other black person experiences what he went through. Reporting live near the Las Vegas Strip and Convention Center, Joshua Peguero, 8 News Now.
Joshua, thank you. A settlement conference to resolve the lawsuit is scheduled for August 6th.
Tonight, an Indianapolis postal worker is in jail facing charges of stabbing a coworker at the USPS facility on the city's east side.
CBS 4's Jesse Wells has an update on the victim's condition and what led to that violence.
The victim has spent the last 11 days here at Eskenazi Hospital, where he suffered a stroke that left him partially paralyzed. Clearly, he has a long road to recovery. At the same time, court records now claim the suspect confessed to the stabbing, but insisted he acted in self-defense. Taking a break from work outside this postal facility along Brookville Road on a Saturday night earlier this month, 2 employees got into an argument which led to punches being thrown and ended with 20-year-old Darius Riggs being stabbed in the neck and back, puncturing his lung. 35-year-old Mark Cork Jr. is now charged with aggravated battery, even though he insisted he felt threatened after being punched by the victim.
Right now, it appears that the argument of self-defense is going to be weak.
According to this affidavit, the fistfight was caught on camera, and Cork told police he felt like his life was in danger, and he felt the need to protect his life. Attorney Mario Masalamani isn't connected to the case, but says self-defense doesn't apply if the suspect unreasonably escalated the violence.
Is it reasonable to use a knife when an individual has stepped back and is not punching you anymore? You have an opportunity to retreat. It appears this individual has retreated back. And at that point, you'll lose the argument of self-defense.
The atmosphere out there, and the atmosphere in this whole greater Indianapolis district is very toxic.
Speaking about the case last week, the local union president criticized security at the facility.
How could you be in charge of a distribution center that big and not put safety first?
It appears that there were some instances at the Postal Service, some security instances where people felt, concern for their safety.
Masalamani says those concerns could actually help the suspect's case because, as the affidavit details, Mark expressed he knows that people bring guns to work in their vehicles, so he was in fear that the victim was going to pull out a weapon during the fight. Finally, the suspect is temporarily being held without bond at the Marion County Jail, awaiting his initial hearing later this week. Jesse Wells, CBS 4 News.
New tonight, charges are now filed against a suspect, a woman accused of shooting a fast food worker to death on the job. Good evening, I'm Russell Kinsall in for Morgan Harris. Weeks after the murder, we're getting a look at the person accused of pulling the trigger. This is that person accused of the crime. Her name is Jada Bell. She's facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder. This evening, only First Alert 4 was at a vigil for Meekins as family and friends gathered just a day before her funeral. Our Jordan Burrell was the first to share the news with Meekins' family about Jada Bell's arrest. Meekins' father cried tears of joy when the news first came down. Jordan joins us now in the studio with more reaction. Jordan?
Russell, an emotional and major development in the investigation into Chauncia Meekins' murder. And tonight, I was there as her family learned the news in real time, right outside the restaurant where she was killed.
She fired several rounds from a handgun. Thank you, Jesus.
I pray, honey.
Thank you.
All day long, honey. Today.
You're hearing and seeing the moment Chauncia Meekins' father and other family members learned someone was charged in her killing.
Wow. Wow.
First Alert 4 was at the vigil Monday outside the Spanish Lake Steak and Shake on Bell Fountain Road, where Chauncia worked and ultimately lost her life. Police say the 32-year-old was shot and killed in the drive-thru on the night of April 8th. Her mother told First Alert 4 an argument started over onion rings. Monday, St. Louis County prosecutors announced this woman, 20-year-old Jada Bell, is charged with 6 felonies in this case, including first-degree murder and armed criminal action.
I seen my daughter as she's going to be laid to rest. She looked beautiful, and she looked happy right now. I didn't know why, but now I know why she's happy, because her crime has been solved. Chauncia, we got you. We got you, C.O.W.S. We got you.
Monday, the day before Chauncia's funeral, her family released balloons outside the Steak and Shake, saying the arrest won't bring her back, but it does bring them one step closer to accountability.
As a family, as a whole, we will be pushing for the death penalty, but not for revenge, to set an example. Because we need to stop this type of senseless violence out there. It doesn't make sense.
Senseless violence, they say, that could happen anywhere to anyone.
Chauncia just so happened to be in harm's way. This could have been anybody's child. At a convenience store buying potato chips, filling station taking too long at the pump.
That's my junior. I'm Chauncia Lavelle Meekins. She's Chauncia Lachelle Meekins. So, you know, this is...
Now, Jada Bell is being held on a $1 million cash-only bond. We checked to see when she is due in court. So far, we're still waiting for that to be revealed. Russell?
Jordan, thanks very much.
Today's date, Thursday, April 23. Unless I have been misinformed, it is Chauncia Meekins' 33rd birthday today. Context of White Supremacy. Gus T, Renegade, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy, information for non-white people, victims of white supremacy, like Chauncia Meekins. 33 today. Stop killing. I think that's one of the 10 stops. I don't want to allow Mr. Fuller, but that seems like one I've heard once or thrice. Stop killing, especially stop killing other victims of white supremacy over onion rings. Onion rings. If you want to get your black culture and black pride, the 20-year-old accused of killing 32, because she didn't make it to today. The 20-year-old accused of killing 32-year-old Chauncia Meekins. That 20-year-old Jada Bell, also a black female. Don't that swell your chest with Negro pride? I didn't say that was one of those last week, but it was right there, because over onion rings. Black and I'm proud. Onion Ring. Matter of fact, we got a twofer. It's been about a year now. Look here. When I mentioned last year, we started off in Michigan. Jennifer Harris, black mother of 6, gets killed also at a fast food restaurant. And I said, man, black people, we will go upside your head if you are a black person in the workplace. Now, we do this off the clock too, but ooh-wee. Now it's been almost a full calendar year. Like I said, we got a twofer this week. Now, we didn't get a fatality, but I mean, you get a stabbing and paralysis. Man, that could have easily been fatal. That was one black brother expressing his black pride with another black brother at the post office. Black and I'm proud. And I may even add to it. This is from today. Every report that we heard last 7 days. We don't do no oldies and dusties and going back in the last 7 days. Nothing that you just heard. No older than April 17. Because technically the stuff from last Thursday, I get that for last week. So nothing older than April 17 in our reports for the workplace. And this would be another reason why I say, man, you should pay attention to the news and labor specifically, because they talk a lot about things that happen in the workplace, so you'll be more informed. May have to make adjustments to your code, especially to make sure you are safe. Now this one, they don't mention racism, but it's in the LA Times. They're talking about fast food restaurants. The governor already told us 80% of the fast food workers in California, female, non-white. Yikes. So this report immediately, you already know it's going to be a lot of dark people. The report, LA's Carl's Jr. For people on the East Coast, Carl's Jr. is like Hardee's. Workers say they're tired of getting beaten up by customers. Now, Chauncia Meekins, she was shot and killed by a customer. Carl's Jr. workers at North Hollywood location walked off the job Tuesday to protest allegedly unsafe working conditions. About 30 members of the California Fast Food Workers Union, along with 2 striking Carl's Jr. workers, gathered outside the restaurant on Vineland Avenue. Workers said the company has failed to provide protection from violent customers and doesn't provide proper access to paid sick leave. Workers detailed violent, that word again, interactions with customers, including robberies and physical assaults, and said the company refused to provide safety training. Workers also aren't given time to recover from injuries they suffer on the job, they said. Yolanda Cruz, now, I don't do the guessing and such, difficult to say, but Yolanda Cruz, do you bump into a lot of people classified as white? Yolanda Cruz. A striking employee who has worked at Carl's Jr. for 20 years is scared every time she clocks in for work. She said employees are regularly harassed by customers. The 66-year-old said, "Ooh, that sounds intimidating, being a little older and they, you got me some cold fries, I'm gonna whack you good." Like, whoa, wait a minute, you make me drop my medication. What else can we do? Just pray to God. That's how we get to work, is the same way we return home at the end of the day, Cruz said to the Times in Spanish. You think this is a white person, Yolanda Cruz, who only habla español? One morning when Cruz arrived at the store for an opening shift, A man jumped at her as she tried to enter the restaurant. Angry customers also regularly throw drinks at employees. Something that's not innocuous, because I mean, hey, that could be a scalding hot cup of coffee, a large one too. So I mean, that's nothing to, minimize regardless. However, on Chauncia Meekins' birthday, now that they've made an arrest, they did reveal more of the details in how she died, and they said that this dispute, before we got to the onion, or I guess, hey, maybe before we got to I got to get my pistol, it was, what in the world? The worst onion rings I've seen in my life, man. And the alleged shooter, black female, 20-year-old black female, she is reported to have taken a beverage and threw it at Chauncia Meekins. Meekins allegedly threw it back at the alleged shooter, and then she said, oh no. Playtime over. She pulled her pistol and shot 2 employees, killed Meekins. Throwing a drink. If you're at work and someone throws a drink at you, do not throw it back. Regularly throw drinks at employees. Back to Ms. Cruz. Last summer, the complaint said a man ran into the restaurant's kitchen, threw items at employees, and threatened them with a frying pan. The man then punched a worker in the face, according to the complaint. A doctor ordered the worker to take a week off, but the employee said that on the 5th day she was called into work because no one could cover her shift, the complaint said. Fearing retaliation from her employer, the worker clocked in to work with a black eye, her face still swollen from the attack, according to the complaint. Management tells us when a customer is aggressive, we should just give them what they want, but we have not been trained on what to do if we are being attacked, or if someone is having a mental health crisis and is behaving erratically, the worker said in the complaint. I will stop there. It goes on to give a little bit more detail, but again, you have lots and lots of non-white employees, and this person who got whacked in the kitchen had to come to work with a black eye, fearing retaliation. She could be a non-white person. The data overwhelmingly would suggest, yep, probably non-white person. This is the work even at the post office. This is the work environment, probably for lots of reasons, mostly to blame the system of white supremacy racism. But all of that said, for the workplace, for yourself, anyone that you care about, especially if you have offspring, and some of these folks are really young, Miss Meekins in her early 30s, and some of the many, many other cases, the young black male who was stabbed at the post office, 20 years old. So make sure you talk to seriously about, hey, it looks like for lots of reasons, there are lots more incidents of violence in the workplace, and specifically black people are more likely to be victims of fatal workplace violence. That said, safety, that is always the forethought. Getting through my shift safely. I want all my fingers and toes. I don't want no black eye. I don't want no swole up face and my jaw. I was pretty when I got here. I'm supposed to be pretty when I leave. Safety. That is number one. And they stick victims of racism in lots of these old high-risk jobs with no security, no training, no protection, no nothing. Figure it out the best you can. And then, you get shot at, killed, stabbed, or whatever. We don't have anybody else. The other people, they got shot too. So you got to come on in. Just manage it up and come on in. Come on. Come on. Nothing is more important than your health and well-being, which is already compromised by the system of white supremacy racism. But I mean, come on. Being assaulted at work? You could be Chauncia Meekins. That's nothing to minimize. That's something to take very seriously. And if no safety protocols have been improved or re-examined, it could happen again the next shift. Yes? No job is more important than your safety. The system of white supremacy, because it's not safe, it encourages us to not regard our safety, and because we are confused about racism, Gus T humbly submits. We are not honest and or are confused about the danger in the universe, people classified as white. That kind of corrupts our entire ability to accurately detect danger, all sorts of danger. I humbly submit that is partly to blame in terms of why black people, really black culture, is a lot of dangerous activity. We disregard the danger. So why do we need pool safety or swim safety or whatever else? We don't even have white people safety. Workplace safety is super important. I cannot say enough. Be mindful, be alert, and speak up. They were talking about so many things, training and security and not having a re-examination and not taking our reports of violence in the workplace seriously. They had so many different components of why this is allowed to, and in so many different workplaces. Missouri, California, doesn't matter. Be alert and really prioritize your safety, because probably no one else will. Get to the reports that we heard in detail. Just, man, so much black on it. And that's one I could pitifully, it would be apropos. What they say, what about the black on black crime? Yep. And in the workplace, at the post office, at the Steak and Shake, real talk, probably at the Carl's Jr. That is something to be mindful about in the workplace, minimizing conflict with everybody, apparently, especially other victims. We will get to the audio reports and such that we heard. I guess 2 announcements before we proceed. I forgot. This is our first time back on the air since our Sunday broadcast, where I detailed some of the findings from the FBI files on Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. Now, I said then we'll probably have to do more of these, if I'm able to secure more information. Between Sunday and Thursday, Gus T did indeed secure more information, even somewhat pertinent, actually very pertinent to the workplace and labor with regards to Dr. Welsing. Now, the files that I received about 7 days ago, those files, I said, it evidenced that the FBI had been observing, keeping notes, tabs on Dr. Welsing since at least 1973, probably earlier than that, but at least 1973. Informants, big files, going all the way to Secret Service and the director of the FBI. Now, they included in the original release, well, we destroyed some of the file, we lost some and spilt coffee on some, and we're just too lazy to put all of them together. So all that, it's more out there. But, we just maybe you'll be all right with this and let it go. No, we ain't all right. Go on and get the rest of them. Go on and get the rest of them. So they went, looked after they first said they lost them. They came back today and said, oh, okay, Nick, okay. We might have found, a few more. Now, I don't have the exact count in front of me. We'll just say for argument's sake that the first time around, let's say they gave me 20 pages, we'll say, for argument, of files on Dr. Welsing. So they come back this time, they say, all right. I guess we found, so-called, a few more, and, we might have actually found 45 pages. Now, even that is kind of like, wait a minute, you said, here's 20 and, whatever. It might be a few more. And you already got 45. Like, that's like double what. Anyway. The major from many majors, but in my view, the major from all of this is the FBI began surveillance on Dr. Francis. The FBI began surveillance on Francis Cress at the age of 19. Eep. Massive. That would be the year 1954, which should be significant for lots of counter-racists. But regardless, 19, she was not a doctor. She had not gone to Germany. She had not authored the Cress theory of color confrontation. Apparently graduating high school was enough. And apparently they got informants for Dr. Welsing. They got informants for Francis Cress because she wasn't a doctor at 19. But they got informants for Francis Cress at 19. At 19. Now, I can't act like a coon and you've never heard the victim being spied on by the FBI at 19, and I'm aware of Fred Hampton, Chicago. But that's it. 19. Lots of things went off in my brain computer seeing that. One of the most critical: white people are out of this world cowardly. You got to go and peep on a teenage black girl in Chicago. Hasn't even done. What has she accomplished at 19? You got to go and peep and spot what you're doing. You've been to the library. You've been reading. Who you been talking to? At 19, you cowards. And it made me like, really, white people know this system can and will be replaced. Ain't no need to do all that peeping. Why are you, William Shockley, peeping on a 19-year-old? You have to give me the logic on that. A 19-year, unless you know something I don't know. This Welsing chick, ooh, she might be the one. We have to keep tabs on her. Unless that's what it is. At 19? And we have not been on our assignment, us being non-white people, victims of racism. If white people are that cowardly, they got to spy on a 19-year-old black girl who really ain't done nothing. We have not been on our job, because really, that should be all of us. That should be all. I mean, we can't all be Dr. Welsing, but it should be, oh man, they are all coming for us like Dr. Welsing, and clearly that is not the case. We have not been on our assignment. White people are so cowardly, it is an embarrassment to us. You got to snoop. Did they snoop on the kindergartners too? That's what you were doing to Tupac? Cowards. The whole Columbine is so on time for April too, because that's what I said about them. That's why they celebrate Columbine. Their whole culture, you're nothing but cowards. Nothing but cowards, and we're just lame. Gus T at the top, because we haven't been on our assignment to solve this problem. Disgracing Dr. Welsing's legacy. She put us to shame at 19. She put us to shame at 19. What we do? Netflixing. I said there were two. Since we were on the air on Sunday. That's Dr. Welsing. We'll get to that later. The Grandcester, Neely Fuller Jr., the FBI confirmed in writing. Oh, yes, we have lots of files on that Negro Neely Fuller Jr. as well. Duh. Said they even lost some of those files. Same thing they said with Dr. Welsing. Both under FBI investigation. Just how long were they under FBI investigation? I had shared this online and someone said, well, they just watch. They don't do nothing. They just watch to see the impact. I've heard Fuller say that. Given that Dr. Welsing was under investigation since 19, I'm not even sure for Mr. Fuller. We don't really know if that's true. We don't know what all they have done. I do know for Dr. Welsing, she was terminated from Howard University. I do know that her brother-in-law died suspiciously, Robert H. Lawrence, 1967. Dr. Welsing had been under surveillance for 13 years at that point. I would just have to know more details about our life, but I mean, those would be at least two confirmable incidents that I would say, maybe that's fingerprints of maybe they did get involved. Any hoodles, even this is all workplace racism related, because, man, I just said Dr. Welsing, she did lose employment at Howard University in 1975. This might be related. Something even you could relate that to. They said the folks went out and got mouthy. I don't like us having a relationship with ICE. Well, then here's your pink slip. Beat it. Dr. Welsing might know something about that. You speak up and they don't like your politics. Dang, they won't renew my contract. Say I'm not good for promotion. I've been doing great work. Got all these great evaluations, and happened to Dr. Welsing. It could happen to you as well. What I would say for the, beyond keeping that in mind for the ICE situation or really anything, but I would also say to keep in mind, they fire plenty of black people who were not speaking up about anything. They were quiet as a church mouse, quiet as if they were on mute. Didn't grouse, curse, fight, bring razors to the break room. None of that. Do their work, humble, speak to everyone, greet everyone, morning, evening. Don't tell no filthy, crude jokes in the workplace. None of that. None of that. And they still get the boot. So, just be mindful that you could be fired at any time for any reason or no reason. And Dr. Welsing and many others have been fired for trying to address problems in the workplace, discuss racism in the workplace, discuss, hey, should we be supporting ICE? They might fire you, and you just decide if you still want to pursue saying what you want to say or pursuing justice, if you will. Dr. Welsing knows something about that. The report the Meta and different companies doing lots of layoffs. Say they're going to bring in all of this AI talent. Really, I can repeat what I just said. You can be fired for any reason or no reason. This one, I guess you could take for no reason, unless they just want to blame it on the AI, and oh man, we got to, it'll be cheaper and downsizing, cost saving and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, you're out of here too. And you didn't even say anything about politics. You weren't trying to gripe and grouse about ICE or racism or DEI, none of that. Dedicated employee, competent, all the rest of it. But we're going to put it in the bot's hands, and it's been nice. Thanks for your service. That specifically, you're going to have a lot of non-white people get the boot, just like the federal cuts. I suspect there will be lots of lower level, kind of mid-tier non-white employees out here. And plus, these are folks who probably don't have as much tenure. Some of the white cronies who got on board earlier. That's the type of thing I would expect with all of the tech layoffs and downsizing, whatever terms that they want to use for it. This was in the LA Times like 5 minutes ago, before we went on air. Meta is laying off 10% of its workforce. I'm not going to read the whole report because it's kind of similar to what we heard from First Post. But this is one of those that I would be telling, if you have younger folks who they are in that tech sphere or trying to break into it, whatever it is, like, oh man, like with all of those layoffs that they're talking about, you will probably have a market that is flooded with very talented people. And so a lot of the white people that are in charge, they will be able to willy-nilly pick whoever they want to, probably do a lot of the same old cronyism and everything there. But I mean, with all that, I mean just massive and all at the same time. Wow. That would be something I would think about strongly if you're pursuing a degree, or if you're, kind of too late, if you're already in the pipeline for that. And this is what that field is looking like now. Ominous. They talked, I thought it was important, they talked about the mental health impact of all of this. I could see that massively, because they were talking about a lot of white people who are going to Stanford or Georgia Tech or wherever to get these lofty degrees and thinking they're going to be computer engineers and all of this, and now they can't even get a job. And especially if you spent all that money, or even if you didn't, just the time and energy labor of all that to get that degree, 4 or 5 years, whatever it takes, and then they're just hiring bots. Man, again, white people are to blame for all of this. And that's why I think it's so important to talk with your offspring about racism in your workplace experience, even though it's not going to be the whole bot and interviewed by bots and all that AI that we have now. But the racism is consistent. Talk to them about your experience with racism so that they are not attributing this to, I am personally defective. There's something deficient about my work ethic or my mental capabilities or where I went to school. I just don't have the right, academic pedigree or whatever. No, they're practicing racism. That might be all bots and what have you, but they do get programmed by someone. Normally there's some human intervention involvement at some point. It is the system of white supremacy racism. Being clear about that so that we don't beat up ourselves and think it's something defective about us as victims. The section on Brio Studios, where they had all of the wage theft and they closed down suddenly, where they had been having all sorts of financial malfeasance. And the parents, just like, we've lost all of our money and what have you. I think that was all white people involved. Not that I'm, sympathizing or mad with them, but there's so many situations like that where you end up on jobs. I was thinking about the people who lost out on the wage theft component, where who knows what the owners were doing at Brio, why they, weren't paying the instructors or whomever. But man, I would be real alert about that sort of thing. Anything where it looks like there might be some, funny business with the books. You're not being paid like you're supposed to be paid every other Thursday or whenever your pay period is, and it's not happening. Oh man, like some people, they can be really nice and sweet talking and all the rest of that is a massive red flag, because who knows? You lost it all on DraftKings. You bet against the Lakers, and now you in the hole. Like, what's going on here? Take all of that super serious. We do not want to be working no grueling jobs or even a great job, and then you come to find out that, oh man, I didn't get paid for the last month, and I'm not going to get that money. Jesus. The section on Alex Rice, granddaughter of the Johnson publishing industry, with Jet Magazine and Ebony Magazine in Chicago, which is Chicago again, with Dr. Well, I have to look to see where Dr. Welsing popped up in there. Anyway, hey, if you have access to relatives, parents, grandparents, and they run a business, see if you can ask them questions. Learn as much as you possibly can. Ask them questions about how racism has impacted their business and try to learn, write down as much as you possibly can. If you have that fortune, have some entrepreneurial spirit in your attempted family, and especially if they're older too, so they've been in business for a long time, so then you can kind of hear how they've dealt with different aspects of racism and refinement of racism, all of that. That just gold mine. Try to be as detailed as you can with your questions and recording their responses. She talked about her family business and it being kind of usurped, even though it stayed with black people, so-called. And she talked about how painful that was for her. I guess I would just say, in a system of white supremacy, again, it is very easy for white people to come and take the whole business, throw the business overboard, us overboard, all of the above. I guess you can try as best you can to have a plan if you want to be this, if you want this to be some sort of like generational, passing this down to your grandchildren or whomever to continue, the legacy. Man, try to have a plan, code, if you will, for all of that, so it can be as detailed, and maybe hopefully you'll have the best chance of executing that without that sort of tragedy happening. But looks like, she's pivoted and doing other things, continuing the brand with her beauty line now, Miss Rice in Chicago. The section on Mr. Brown, the mayor in Jacksonville. I don't know if our caller at the courthouse is familiar. Maybe Mr. Brown, Mayor Brown, comes to hang out at the courthouse down there in North Florida all the time. But filing a lawsuit against the Trump administration, his claim that they are disproportionately getting rid of black people in federal government positions. I thought they kind of said last year that was the whole goal. Duh. Doge. No Negras. Got too many of them anyway. We had all that Obama and stuff, and beat it. I love it. I cannot wait to see what happens with this suit. Mr. Brown, the numbers are so stark. They said that roughly 75% of black officials at independent federal agencies have been fired under Trump's second term, compared to approximately 27% of white officials in the same position. So, that is massively stark. And I remembered some of the positions that he was talking about at the Library of Congress and some of the others what did I say? Crude. Your services are no longer needed. Not even, I said, well, thank you so much for your services and all that. I said that even if you're going to be tacky, you can do that in the correct way, where it's not just, beat it, get out of here, beat it, we don't need you no more, beat it. Hey, dang. They said 6 lines, that sort of thing, where you arrive, or you get to work and your key fob doesn't work. They got you stuck at the front entrance, security mean bugging you, that sort of thing. I cannot wait to see how his lawsuit, and because he cited the same amendment Mr. Fuller used to mention all the time. Fifth Amendment, equal protection under the law. And I had just said earlier this month, I said, man, we got all these changes with the federal government and different judges and some of Trump's appointments from his first term. And then now, and with the conduct of white people, like, would that still work? Would Mr. Fuller, would he have to make adjustments? Would he still be able to do the same route, that this is a violation of the U.S. Constitution, 5th, 14th Amendment, due process, and not even mention racism? Would that still work in this environment? Maybe this will give us an opportunity to see the case with Mayor Brown, because he has the data. This is not he called me a Negro or blah, blah, blah. Hey, 75% black people lost their federal job. One, I would, especially if I was in Florida, I'd keep an eye. But I mean, hey, this federal government, we should all keep an eye on this one. Black on black crime. We had a whole section on that today. The first part of it, 20-year-old Darius Riggs, Indianapolis, gets stabbed at the post office. Now, even, I know the post office is not, you don't come in, everybody at least, in a suit and tie and blouse and business attire and all that. I know that's not the post office, but still, like, I thought, that's a federal job. I thought, this 9 to 5. Like, you can't go to the post office at 10 p.m. For most part. They got a few, I know Atlanta, a few of them, they got 24 hours. But for the most part, you can't go to the post office anytime. They got business hours, 9 to 5, 9 to 4. This is a serious job, like a stab, and not some rowdy customer. What you mean, y'all out of stamps, and you gonna charge me with it? Co-workers at the post office got into a brouhaha, and I got to stab? Like, what? They said this happened. It was so many things about that report, and a listener shared that. Much obliged. It was so many things about that report. They said, one, they were in the break room, and they were talking about whatever and got into it. I don't know I've never worked at the post office. I know we got some C.O.W.S listeners who have over the years. I don't know what you talk about, like when you're on your break as a postal worker. I don't know if you talk about, are we going to make it? They talk about all the financial difficulties with the U.S. Post Office, Postal Service. Are we going to get a raise? I know people complain about that. It's a long time for a probationary period at the post office. When we going to get promoted? What the weather going to be like? All these white people that make dogs, man, I ran out of dog mace again. I don't know what you talk about in the break room. But if it's going to get to the point where, now I'm going to have to cut you, Leroy. We don't need to talk about nothing. Stamps, dogs, Bron James, nothing. Shh. Nothing. Shh. Morning, Leroy. Morning. And we can leave it at that. Good evening, Leroy. Good evening. We can leave it at that. We don't have to sit and talk about nothing. Especially, this is going to trial. Mr. Riggs, 20-year-old, stabbed. He survived, thankfully. This is going to trial. What were they talking about? Now, even if it was talking, man, I hope I get this raise. You know you ain't earned no raise. What? I got the cut. Even if it was that, like, man, we don't need to talk about nothing but, man, what were they talking about? Was this even related to the job? Were you even talking about anything related to delivering this mail, getting this mail processed? If this was some old nonsense, we talking about something that's not even work related? And with all those serious injuries, this sound like type thing, which I've said before, black pride, black culture, black on black crime, we get in trouble and we both lose our job. That sounds like what this one's going to be, because you got one, You in jail and you stabbed a coworker, so you definitely not getting a promotion. And the other coworker in the hospital with near fatal injuries. You not going to be here for at least, I'm going to say 4 or 5 months at least. We supposed to hold your spot that long? We done both lost that job. And once you heal, you might not even be able to do this anymore. Now, I said it was so much with that report. At the post office. So they're talking about God knows what. In the break room, the alleged perpetrator, black male, he said he got his knife and escalated to all this because he was fearful, because he thought, hey, old Darius, he is a privileged black male, 20. He is a privileged black male. He might have a pistol. He said they've known to bring firearms here. What? What? I thought this is, I'm not saying is this facility in Indianapolis, but I thought the whole jargon for somebody, I got to grab my AK-47 and go kill every one of my coworkers. They call that going postal. They've been saying that for a long time. You cannot be telling me the security, management, really professionalism, and our commitment to workplace safety at the U.S. Post Office is so low. It is the wild, wild west out here. I got my dog mace. I got my Glock. I'm ready to ride. Like, what? These are people that are not even out on a route. You're talking about being in the break room at the postal facility. I don't even know what to say. This is a federal job. Like, how they check you more aggressively than that when you come to drop off a letter. I was just at the post office. They asked me, what you got in this package? Anything explosive? Dangerous? They asked me all kinds of questions. I can't even. I said, so you don't get your pay on time. You are in a workplace where your coworkers are known to bring firearms. Even if you're in some like rural location where there's lots of hunting, and maybe you're in Alaska where they got wild moose and elk and wolves and bears, and anything might kill you at any moment. So you got to have a rifle with you at all times. You're not supposed to have that in the workplace. That is absurd in every way, shape, form. That should have been all kinds of notification, and whoa, we need to have all kinds of new training. I need to get a new job. And that sort of environment for sure. Ooh, no. I don't have no jokes. I don't do no gossip. I don't want to talk about who won the March Madness pool. I don't want to talk about none of that. This is a very dangerous place. I mean, wow, I got to be alert. Who is upset today? Who? He didn't get the promotion? Uh-oh. He gonna be, let me see. Oh, man. They said, look at Ted. Look at that boy. Steam coming off his coat. Let me go tell somebody. That's what I would be every day. Hyper vigilant. What's going on here? And I would have a reputation. You know, that old Gus T, he don't do no talking about nothing. You almost have to get a hammer and pry his lips about you darn tootin'. It's real difficult now. A whole lot of people want to stab me once I open my mouth to talk about racism. Sometimes I can kind of get by. I'm on mute and I don't say nothing. I can get by for a little while. In the work, I just stay on mute. Like I said, morning, Helen. Morning, Tom. You speak to everybody. You speak when you leave. Anything workplace related comes up. Oh, we got a new mace to get rid of the dog. Oh, praise, hallelujah. Anything work? We got a promotion? Really? Go in and get up. Great, great. Anything other than that, And that's all I got to say until we get to the end of the shift. Black on black. And then, as I said, they got the suspect in the killing of Chauncia Meekins, who was supposed to turn 33 today, didn't make it because of her 20-year-old black sister. Not literally, but and that violence, not only was that a black female killing another black female, they closed that whole restaurant down. Everybody there lost their job. And if they were cool with Chauncia Meekins, I lost my homie too. And I'm now suddenly unemployed. I suspect it was probably a lot of black people that worked at that Steak and Shake in Spanish Lake, Missouri. I don't know the exact demographics of all of the employees, but I mean, Jesus. And over onion rings. And I cannot say enough. Miss Meekins is a victim. That said, any job that you're on, we talked about before, I strongly recommend, and especially in this environment, when you're at work, when you're away from the job, hey, whatever, you have totally different code. On the job, I would not retaliate unless it is absolute and immediate self-defense. Like, I thought I was about to die. This person cocked back like they were about to sock me and bust my skull wide open, and I had to do some quick judo, boop, boop, and just sock them out the way so I could run. It would have to be an immediate throw. I do know you can throw some hot coffee on someone and scald them good. Absolutely. Even with hot coffee, I would not retaliate in the workplace. I have seen it can go bad. You got multiple ways. They had the young lady, it was a black female. We talked about that one. She was Lysol. She was spraying her work area. This is with the Rona. And a white woman came in and said, "Oh my God, you out here and these conspiracy viruses and boom, putting that virus." And she shoved her like violently out of the way, the white woman. And the black female got anxious and afraid, and she bonked her with a Lysol can and sprinted away. They charged the black female with assault. She had to do, I think, like she got a 6-month sentence. Didn't do anything to the white woman. Retaliation. And then Miss Meekins, the alleged shooter, she got the onion rings, threw the drink at Miss Meekins. This is in the report, all alleged. Miss Meekins allegedly threw the drink back at the shooter, and then she pulled her pistol out and boom, boom, boom. Personally, if it's this bad, they got Carl's Jr. and they had a report. There were nurses that have been talking about this. That's why they've been going on strike and all this. They're saying that patients are violent. And, oh, my goodness, we got the same. We got to pray that we can make it through the shift. If that is the case, they should have training, number one, especially people, if you deal with a lot of folks, the general public, since so many people are having mental health issues or substance abuse issues or racist combination, whatever, and they're armed, whatever it is, lots of people are acting out violently. As such, there should be training. What to do? Someone comes in, what do we do if they throw a drink at you? What do we do? They look like they're going to try and hit you. What do we do? Especially if you work in an environment where they don't have security, where you can't just be, Bob, security, get him. Well, you can't just do that and run, and security is going to sprint over. They have been trained in what to do to handle all that, de-escalate, or put the, headlock on somebody if they got to. They got the mace and all that stuff. But if you don't have security there, oh man, what are we supposed to do to keep ourselves safe if something bad should happen, something violent should happen, someone should try to attack us? Are we supposed to have weapons in the workplace? I might have to ask that for because that seems so widespread. Are we allowed to have weapons in the workplace? Guns, knives, razor, bow and arrow. You might have to go through the list in that sort of manner just to see, is that permissible? Do you need that in writing? Is that something that's okay as long as it's declared? You have it in your vehicle? Like, lots of questions just to see, do I work in an environment everybody here might have a Glock on their waist? I need to know that. Everybody here might have a bow and arrow in their desk. I need to know that. What is the policy? Is it enforced? Are we serious about that? What do we do if I see an employee and they have a firearm? What do we do? What's the procedure? Might be serious questions that I ask in a workplace. That is absurd. There should not be a workplace where it's just we know. Everybody or every other employee, they got their gun, they got their pistol, and they make my day. I'm going to be sitting quietly in my cubicle all day long. Thank you. And definitely in that environment, you see, that's why I say you don't have no headphones on. You don't have no earbuds on. Really, I'm not playing no music all loud, and this certainly ain't the time to boom. None of that. None of that. You need to be vigilant, alert, listening. Someone loading their clip, Someone loading their firearm. Is someone shooting? Is someone mad, yelling, cursing, anything, talking about me, telling a racist joke, anything? Pay attention, especially if you got armed folks in, pay double, and ain't nothing else to be listening out for. Listening for the kerfuffle. Anything sounds like it's getting rowdy, I already know where the exits are. Deuces. But I would definitely talk to management, human resources, take all violence in the workplace, take it seriously. People say, I would shoot you. Take it seriously. That's why I say I wouldn't do no joking. I'd be very professional and courteous with everyone. Call them by their name. No nicknames. No nicknames. No cursing. Very professional. Very courteous. Even, I think it was Victim in New Jersey, apologies if I'm in error, where he said he made a joke, and the white person, they didn't find it funny. I would be real minimal on the jokes in the workplace. I would assume you got lots of folks, they're racist, they're on drugs, they're having mental health issues. They will not have a sense of humor for no nigger. I'm not Cat Williams, and I didn't aspire to get an A+ in entertainment on the job anyway. I'm going to be real minimal on my Bill Cosby routine. Keep it serious, courteous, professional, and I think that can go a long way. You courteous. Again, I'm not saying that you don't talk to anybody and you never open your mouth. I'm not in the break room. You know that Bron James. Get a book. Cover it up so they'll know what you're reading. Read the newspaper. Something quiet. The number to dial, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Are you allowed to bring weapons to your workplace? Do you know? Do other people? Are you aware of other co-workers of yours? They bring their pistol, rifle, AK-47, machete into the workplace. Do you know? Do they have it? Are they serious about enforcing that policy? Like, we want a safe environment, and you keep them firearms at your residence. Let us know. If you have any sort of codification that would benefit non-white people, Certainly do not be no spectator. If you have any difficulties, a problem that you are trying to get solved without creating new problems, let us know. We will do our best to use counter-racist logic. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. Alrighty, let's see. Folks have commentary to share. We'll get to our emails as well. Folks have thoughts, observations on their workplace, any of the reports that we heard to start things off. Let's see. We will nab one email, and then we'll see if folks have thoughts to share. Let's see. Email number 1. Let's see. Greetings, Gus. I'm writing to ask you and anyone else who you think may be interested in assisting one of my coworkers who is a non-white black male whose position places him between non-white black supervisors and non-white black subordinates. He works as a supervisor in the United States Postal Service. How about that? Make sure they don't have any weapons, maybe one. I can tell you many a story about the United States Postal Service, but I'm going to tell one that could help you understand why assistance is needed. The mail volume around this time of year, spring into summer, is significantly lower due to vacations, school breaks, etc. There is also a lower volume, particularly after the weekend. Another contributing factor is a high absentee rate at the USPS. We came into one such day. The area that non-white black male supervisors the area the non-white black male supervises is called the AI. A machine consists of one loading station, 4 prep stations, and an area in the back where the mail comes out in tubs and is placed in what are called post-cons. These post-cons are then transported to the platform to be delivered to other mail facilities, which in turn delivers to the customers. The machine accommodates 6 employees. We have 2 AI machines. Normally, when the employees assigned to the AI report, they go to the machine they are accustomed to working on. Due to the high rate of absenteeism, there were only 4 employees who reported to work on that particular day. So, logic dedicated that all employees move to one machine and begin working. Unfortunately, that was not the case. One of the 4 employees, remember I said the employees go to the machine they are accustomed to working on, made the decision to go to the other machine and sit in the back. There was mail there, and she cleared one side of the machine by putting the tubs into post-cons. By then, the non-white black supervisor comes to the machine and starts clearing the other side because there is no other employee who could assist. He notices there are no placards and goes to print. When he gets back, he could not find the employee, but notices that there is still mail on the side where he was assisting. He goes looking for the employee and finds the employee conversing. He asks, "Why are you not in your area completing the clearing of the mail?" Now, this particular employee from the start has been a nuisance. Since all positions are bid positions, you get the employee you get. The supervisor tells her to go back and finish clearing the mail. The employee informs the supervisor that she ain't going to clear the mail, go get someone else. Direct quote. Take that for your black male privilege. When there is a full complement, one of the people prepping will go to the back and assist in clearing the machine. There is a bit of back and forth about who was in the superior position and who was not. The male supervisor tells her to go to the other machine and prep. She says no and does not move. He then says, go home. The supervisor finds a union representative and informs the representative of his difficulty with the employee. The union representative speaks to the employee and reports back to the supervisor that the employee said they are not going home and the ball is in his court. Forgive the metaphor, this is what was said. The supervisor goes to his manager, explains the situation, informs his superior that he wants to send the employee home. His manager does not back his plan, and he in turn goes home instead. Wow, we were already like short employees. And so the one worker who was trying to get people to work and stop chit-chatting, wasting time, we send him home. Like, whew, now we are really short on the machines. Okay, that's why my mail was late, I guess. Not only does the employee know, but all the employees know that the upper management does not assist, back their supervisor's decisions. Hence, who went home. This supervisor would like to move up in positions, but feels the only way would be to go along with disastrous decisions, such as no backing from upper management. The question he asks is how can he move forward without compromising himself, meaning what he believes he can and should be doing as a supervisor as he moves towards upper management. This does make sense as a question. I think one, recognizing we're in a system of white supremacy, racism, and as a black male, I just don't think that your decision making, our decision making, is generally not prioritized. Even if you are demonstrating brilliance, constructive and correct thinking about how to solve problems and how to get things done in an efficient manner in the workplace, even then, black males' intellect, black people period, is not prized, especially I would say black males. So I think understanding that would be one. And then in these sort of situations where it's flagrant, whomever this black male, his managers or the people that he answers to, they do not back him, and especially his independent thinking and what he thinks should be done to manage his subordinates and other employees and how to respond to employee absences and all that. If you're not supported by your managers and such, at least in my view, what makes logical sense, a situation like that, you have an employee, we're short, employee is not working, she goes off to, take unauthorized break or whatever. As opposed to, I'll come up with my brain computer, I'm the black, or at least her immediate supervisor, what should be done. They don't support my decisions. I'll go report this to my manager and ask them, what do they think should be done? And then I'll go ahead and carry out their directive. That's what I would do. And that takes it out of, because I'm not in charge. They show me that. If I was in charge, if you got an employee, it can't be that the way we run business, any business, the post office, Carl's Jr., we're already short employees. And we have an employee who is now not even the limited employees that we have. All of them aren't working. Some of them, they're just shirking their duties and, over here talking about whatever, the playoffs or the weather or what they're going to do for spring break or summer vacation, whatever. That's not helping us. I try to correct that and you all don't support my decision. Okay. I'll go and get your input. Even though, I guess a person might assume. I was told to supervise this person that I'm supposed to use my brain computer to correct him, her, when they're not on task, completing their duties. But maybe that's not the way that you all conceptualize my duties. No problem. I would just go ask them, and keeping in mind, I'm not in charge. This is a system of white supremacy. I can be overruled at any time, and this would be true even if he was President Obama. White people can overrule me anytime, and or if it's other black supervisors over top of me. I'm not the most powerful person here. I remember that. And then I would just go ask. You don't have to go ask about everything, but certainly anything like that where I know they're not going to have my back, I just go ask them. That way I'm carrying out their directives. And if the employee doesn't want to do it, they should have my back now. I'm carrying out what you said. Really, they are disobeying you and what you wanted us to do. So what, and still same thing. What should be done now? That's the way that I would approach it. Any sort of environment where I can see that I'm not going to be supported or even given an opportunity to make any sort of decisions or use my intellect about how we approach solving problems and getting things done, just go ask the person that's in my immediate supervisor who I report to. Go ask them, report, and then what should be done. I get back in the question lane, and then I go carry that out to the best of my abilities. Try to do it exactly as they stated, and see if the promotion can go that way. They can say, hey, this nigger follows orders, gets things done. Hey, sometimes what they want to see with a black person is not that they're going to do a whole lot of high individual thinking and I'm going to use my brain computer. Sometimes for people classified as black, that's not how you get the promotion anyway. Not that I'm an expert on promotions, but just being truthful about that. And even that promotion, you can work as hard and be as diligent, competent, professional, on time in there. I'm covering for other people's shifts when they've called out and didn't even let us know and that sort of thing, and you still don't get the promotion. So be honest with yourself about that as well, that you can be in there and do everything and trying to solve problems, and you have other employees, they're not even working. They send you home. System of white supremacy racism. So just be honest about that. I'm not saying, don't strive for that promotion, but just be very, very honest about it. Because even if you get it, it might be the exact same thing. So I know that might not necessarily be something to celebrate in terms of a response. If other folks, if they have thoughts what to do, what would your recommendation be? You have a non-white black male, allegedly a supervisor, and they are supposed to be in charge of other black employees who do not listen to this person, ignore, what they ask them to do, and nothing is done about it. The black male's superiors do not support his decisions and overrule his authority and whatever, decisions that he's made with how workers will be disciplined or what should be done. So I would minimize, if they're going to overrule decisions that I make, I would minimize those specific types of decisions with regards to employee discipline or how they manage an employee who's being disobedient. Just ask them directly, and then you can implement their directives and see, maybe we can reinvestigate in 6 months to see if things have improved, if he has a little bit more autonomy to make decisions or not. System of white supremacy, that sort of thing is denied black people. That sort of agency is denied black people in the workplace all the time, unfortunately. That's why we're trying to produce justice. You can let me know if that makes sense. If other people, if they have suggestions, I guess especially if we have black people who supervise other black employees and situations maybe where those black employees are, I don't want to say incompetent, but defiant maybe. That would be better. Yeah, not incompetent. They can do the work. They can do the work. They're intelligent and all that, but they are defiant. They are reluctant to, accept criticism or direction from you, their black superior, or at least their black supervisor in this immediate context. That we have folks who've dealt with that and have any tips or recommendations, that would be grand. I would also say in expecting, if it's a black person, expecting that sort of defiance. Not that that makes it any better, but just so that you're not stunned that this happened. Carter G. Woodson talked about this over 100 years ago in Miseducation of the Negro. That is a massive part of black culture, and even making sure that it doesn't get you really, really angry, because I know that can be very frustrating, but that really is the same root source pattern I talked about with the black on black crime and black people being violent with each other in the workplace. That sort of defiance. Now, that same black female employee, if she had been answering to a white supervisor, white woman, white man, white person in a wheelchair, white elderly person, would she have had that same level of defiance? I know we're short employees and we're trying to do, the best we can to kind of hold things together here, but, I got my homie over here. I don't get to see them that often. We got to catch up for at least 15 minutes and then I'll get back on it. Maybe. Hey, I'm saying the pattern with the workplace, with the Chauncia Meekins, the flagrant pattern I have observed is we will kill another black person in the workplace. The pattern Carter G. Woodson observed, we will get sassy with another black person in the workplace. We a little white woman, white man, not that it never happens. I'm just saying we a little less hesitant to get up in their face on the word. What did you say to me? What did you tell me? You don't tell. Not being surprised about that, I think, can go a long way, help you keep your blood pressure down, even minimize some of those conflicts where you don't take it personal, where I got to get back at this person, or we got to have a verbal argument and yell and shout for 30 minutes or anything like that. Like, okay, system of white supremacy, this is how we've been trained, and we don't answer to black people. I got all of that. We still got to work together, so I have to deal with it from that, but I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not even going to jump up and down and yell right now. I channel my Dr. Welsing, COINTELPRO at 19. But I channel my Dr. Welsing. I take some deep breaths. And like I said, I don't even get upset about it. I go to my management. Got a supervisor that's not following direct. What recommendations do you have to getting this person back on board and accomplishing their tasks? That's really what we want. And then I go implement that, like I said, exactly. If we have folks any tips, you can let me know if this makes sense, right? If it's logical, if it seems like it might work, or if any folks have any better suggestions dealing with unruly, uncooperative black subordinates for a black supervisor, let us know. Victim in New Jersey, aforementioned, not doing his Bill Cosby today. Victim.
Hey, how you doing, Gus? You know what? I could be wrong, but I suspect black people in the workplace are quicker to get violent with other black people. So, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure somewhere in these here United States, there was a black person who squared up with a white manager. But for the most part, I think black people are more cautious when it comes to challenging white employers. Now, just to bring up, we just had a incident with the two rappers. You could say this is workplace related. You had Atlanta's Gucci Man, and you had Memphis, Tennessee's Pooh Shiesty, and the whole assault, robbery, a dispute over contract, and that sparked a debate. You know, Pusheisty is under Gucci Man's label, and some said, you know, how he, you know, robbed and had him by gunpoint, or, you know, had weapons and forced him to sign Pusheisty out of this what he deemed to be not just contract. It's been a debate, would Pusheisty have done that to a white executive? So if this was Tommy Mottola or Clyde Davis, you know, would Pusheisty and his father, by the way, go into their offices and force them by gunpoint to sign them out of a contract? So that's been quite a debate. You know, right now we're coming up under a new contract, and you know, so we're under the Teamsters Union. So it looks pretty good, Gus, because the union meetings are quite underrepresented, just quite, you know, not really attended. But for this particular union meeting, the last two union meetings, there was great participation because of the contract negotiation. And so, you know, it was good dialogue with the union reps. They believe that they are going to get us a reasonable contract. You know, we was informed that in the industry that we worked, that we are very underpaid. We're not, you know, compared to other trucking industries that perform the same functions, you know, the food industry. You know, so, you know, hopefully the contract is done maybe by June. And also this contract is also going to determine whether I stay. So I said, okay, you know what, I'm because I was attempting to, you know, go back into the independent contractor business, get my own truck. But again, there's a lot of things going on with that. You know, I want to see what's going to happen with these gas prices, and, you know, just see what the economy looks like. You know, I'll say by September. So by September, I'll have an idea on whether I'm going to stay. So after, you know, whether, you know, the contract looks better, they bring us up to what other companies are making, because they pulled the books about what the company was making, and the company, from what the union reps are saying, the company is doing quite well, and they negotiated, I'm going to say, two other contracts, one being Coca-Cola. I don't know if y'all remember the tackiness when I applied for Coca-Cola, when they assumed that I went on an interview and I didn't, and they called and gave me an acceptance letter. So that was that same company. Pepsi, they also are under this union. So they want to at least bring us up to where, you know, Pepsi and Coca-Cola and a few other trucking companies give us similar contracts. So, you know, that was real interesting. So I want to see what's going to happen. So they was real excited, because of the participation of the employees of this company. It was a lot of people that came. You know what? I speaking about joking on the workplace, I don't joke, but I do conversate with customers, but real interesting. So this particular customer, white female, Portuguese. I know she's Portuguese because she said so. And some people get confused, because when you look at someone from that area of the planet, that's from that area of the planet, Portugal, Spain, Italy, they can kind of look, they can kind of look, you might not know, like, oh, is this person white? This person non-white? You might get a little confused sometimes when you see people from that area of the world. Because I thought she was a non-white Hispanic at first, but she's from Portugal. So I made the delivery. We got into a conversation, and she says, "Oh, I'm from Newark, New Jersey." I said, "Oh, wow, you from Newark?" Now, Newark is, I think the population of black people has decreased, but it's still, population-wise, will be considered a predominantly black city. I'm assuming, maybe, I might got to do the numbers on that. But there's a section in Newark called the Ironbound section, which is a Portuguese Hispanic section. This section has been you want to say it's been segregated for years. There might be maybe 2 or 3 housing projects, and that'll be where the black people, non-white people are, but for the most part Portuguese. So I tell her too, I said, hey, okay, well, I'm from Newark too, but I grew up in other places from New Jersey. So she says, no, what did she say? She says, oh, are you from, you're from where, no, what did she say? She basically said, she asked me, oh, you're from where the good people are from. Asked me did I grow up like in the Ironbound section? And that kind of struck me. And, you know what I mean? And I was, I don't really get too offended anymore by white people, But when she said that, she said, oh, are you from where the good people are from? So I said, no, I grew up in the Welsing section of Newark. Well, she said, oh, okay. And, but I left kind of, when you leave a conversation, just kind of, not feeling good about the conversation. Like, what do you mean? So in the city of Newark, so where the Portuguese are, that's where the good people are. Everywhere else in the city, that's where the bad people are. But I'm in a workplace. There's no need for me. And she's also a customer. So there's really no need for me to go in the back and forth. Hey, explain to me what you mean. Where am I from where the good people are from? But I took a mental note, and moving forward, I'm very cautious with this particular customer, being though she made that statement. So I would like to know, what will be, did I do the right thing? Should I challenge her, and debate it, what you mean? So that's another reason why I don't really joke, or I'm kind of brief when it comes to customers, even other coworkers, for situations like that, So, but I just took my paperwork and just left. But that was a real interesting conversation, And I also, and this is also, I would say, a attractive, non-black female, and because of her look, other black people might get kind of confused, but it was real interesting to hear her ideology and how she looked at the greater Newark area compared to the Ironbound section. Yeah, but I'll close.
Fascinating. I guess if you had to do that exchange over again, she said, "Oh, you grew up where the good people live in Jersey." If you had to do that exchange over again, would you change anything? Would you say anything differently?
I probably wouldn't even have engaged on where you were from or where you grew up. I probably wouldn't have even had that conversation. I probably would have just kept it with, sometimes I go in there and I do get coffee, say, hey, that coffee. I probably would have just kept it there. Can I get water or coffee? And just, because now I just, I'm kind of uncomfortable around this particular woman. I remember Dick Gregory had a statement where he said white women scare him. And I want to say, white women do scare me. So now I'm very, I just don't, I'm not too trusting of people on the workplace, but I am really not trusting of this woman. But I am also glad I had that conversation because it definitely gives me an idea on how to interact with this particular woman who is from Portugal, for Portuguese descent.
I see. Fascinating. They did a lot of so-called colonizing. They do speak Portuguese in Brazil. Fascinating. I reckon that, like he said, hey, I don't trust the folks in the workplace, and I would have probably just got my coffee or my water, kept it moving. Let's not even get off into all these old side conversations and such. I personally, my view, other folks can, share their thoughts. I personally do not think you did anything wrong, although I certainly, stick to this, stay on the workplace. I guess for options, one, if they're asking about where you grew up at, I don't think that is the time to what are you talking about? I don't think that is the workplace. I agree. I don't think that's where you're supposed to get into all that. Now, I do think what you could do, even if, your grandparents are New Jersey historians and they know everything about the history of New Jersey and Newark, and so you've grown up with all this information and know all kinds of goodies and tidbits about your good old home state, even if that's true, and she says, oh, you grew up where the good people stay? What do you mean good people? Where did they stay? And I know exactly what you are talking about, where it is and all that. We used to go over there every other weekend. What do you mean the good people? Where is that at? And just let them, I'm a big advocate. Now, you can say that that's lying. Okay. Mr. Fuller did say we're supposed to be about truth in the workplace and all that, but he also did acknowledge the system of white supremacy may require you to lie. Might happen all the time. He even talked about times where it happened for him. That said, I am not opposed to good people. What good people? Now, technically, I'm not even lying because I didn't say I don't know nothing about it. I just asked you, what good people? What is that? Where they stay at? I'm asking you to explain it, see? And that way, oh, you didn't, well, let me tell you. Oh, okay, well, I'll have to ask about that, but I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you so much for my coffee. And then we keep on rolling. And she can explain it to me and all that, and I never even heard of that. That way I don't have to give any information, and I still file that away. Good people. Got to be wary, vigilant, what I said before when I'm around. That's a good reminder. But that's just one. I guess that's another one where folks could, I don't discuss location, neighborhood, that sort of thing in the workplace where I grew up. That's another one where you can always shoot that. We talk about I don't discuss politics in the workplace. I don't give out my geographic information in the workplace. That's another pithy one that you can have ready to roll for those type of situations. But yeah, I don't think that's the time to challenge. I think that's always one where you can always play ignorant. They think we're dumb anyway, so hey, we can use that to our advantage. We can always play ignorant. Super Bowl? What's Super Bowl? Playing? What's a playing? Good people? What's the good people? We can always play ignorant. Hopefully everything will be great. Hopefully everything will be great with the contract negotiations, and you all will get a massive raise. This might be another one. Reminded me of Meta, old Zuckerberg and them, where they're making all this money, massive profits. He said that the business trucking company is doing really, really well. We are some of the worst compensated employees on the Eastern Seaboard. Oh, it's disgraceful. Look what they make over at Pepsi-Cola. Oh, and they get all the Pepsi they can drink too. Hey, so look at that. Oh, it's disgraceful. We got to go. I bet you they got lots of non-white employees doing all of the hard labor, driving and all that New York traffic, gas prices explosive, and we just got through the winter, thankfully. Got to be out there laboring through all of that, and customers getting mad and where you grew up at. I don't like your jokes. All the rest of it, you got to deal with on the front line of all of that, and we don't want to give them too much. Same type of thing with Carl Jr. and Steak and Shake, that sort of thing. But hopefully they'll get a massive increase with the contract. Negotiations will be easy, and they will do right by you all. We'll hope, pray. It did come to what he mentioned. It did come to mind. I suspect from time to time in the workplace, Gus T as well, we encounter someone that we find attractive, might disrupt our codification just a teaspoon, where we would be a little more chatty, not quite as logical about things. It is very common. That might even be one to add to the counter-racist, someone that you know they are attractive, even if it's just to you, they are attractive. Whew. Pause. Might have to say a little less. Mess around. They say, looks, nice wearing that outfit today. And oh man, now I'm stuck for 30 minutes. I was supposed to be in here for 10 seconds. And now this is, where did an hour go? Was I supposed to be in here? Just make note of that. Gotta go. Gotta go. In a rush. Anybody that you already know that might just slightly, we are human, it might knock off the adherence to codification. Bay Area mom tells us all the time about non-white people and they're trying to hook up in the workplace. Not that it's even that, but just Area 8 has a big impact. So all of us can remember that one as well in the workplace. Much obliged. Victim in New Jersey, soon to get a massive raise from the new contract. I guess he did not grow up in the good part. We're the good people in Newark. Let's see. Bay Area mom should be with us as well. If you have commentary or if you have any tips, a black supervisor who has black subordinates who are defiant, unruly. I'm not going to listen to you. You don't boss me around, tell me what to do. If you have any tips, and the black supervisor is not backed by his own supervisor, so it's even more challenging. If you have any tips for a victim in such a position and or your own thoughts to share, proceed. Not hearing you, Bay Area Mom, if you muted yourself. Nope, and still not hearing you, Bay Area Mom. If you, I don't know if your headset or accidental mute, maybe. I'm not sure. Let's see. Make sure it's not on my end, so I'll close it really quick and then open it back up just to make sure I'm not. All right, so I muted it there. I open it back up. Let's see. How curious. How curious. Let me make sure. I was just hearing our victim in New Jersey, so unless my sound went really goofy really quickly, let's see. Okay, I still got it. So I'm not hearing you. If you want to hang up and dial us right back, I'll nab you on the switchboard, but we are not hearing you at all. I don't know if you got muted or distracted, having difficulties, but we're not picking up your audio at all, Bay Area Mom. We'll give a tick and see if she rings us back through. Bay Area Mom. Let's see. Maybe if I hang up your line, let's see. I'll tell you what, I'll hang up your line, Bay Area Mom, and then you can dial us back just to see if that clears it. So I'll hang you up, just dial us right back, Bay Area Mom. Hopefully this won't ruin things. Sorry. So I'm hanging Bay Area Mom up, boop, and then I'll look out for her on the switch. While we're waiting, retired firefighter in Florida who is way south of Mayor Brown in Jacksonville, but still same state. Retired firefighter in Florida should be with us. Let's see if his audio is working.
Greetings, everyone. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Run that question by me again about the black quote unquote supervisor.
Black male supervisor. Context: this is the U.S. Postal Service. He supervises other black employees, and he was attempting to get them to do work, get the mail, that sort of thing. They refused, and after they refused, he attempted to send one of the workers home. She refused to go home. He then reported it to his superiors, and they did not back him. They did not send her home. They sent him home. So he wants to know how he can best continue to advance his career, not get in trouble, but deal with the situation where he is supposedly supervising other black employees who totally ignore him, do what they want, and he gets no support from management.
And you are asking for advice on what that person should do?
Yes, he wanted to know if folks had any suggestions on how can he best still advance his career in this sort of situation where his superiors don't back him, and even the people that he's supposed to manage ignore him, defy him.
I'm thinking about the only thing that he should be interested in doing is maybe privately asking questions on the matter, asking others, just like the motivation for you having this particular program. He should involve himself in a similar fashion, asking for advice, on the subject matter. Does that make sense?
I think he was reaching out. That's how we ended up getting this query. I think, yep, he's taken that one. And my suggestion in terms of just expecting this sort of unfortunately unruly behavior from black subordinates. That tends to be something that's very common for black supervisors, where they have subordinates who, you're not going to tell me what to do, and black as you are, and just very different conduct than what you would get from a white person. So number one, expecting this behavior, and then checking in with the black male checking in with his own superiors to get their input about how to proceed when an employee is not doing their work, being defiant. Do they have recommendations for what to do? Or, hey, this is what you all say should be done if this person is not going to work, as opposed to send them home, do X, Y, and Z. I would go and do that every time and not take it personal. This is just, the system. We don't listen to other black people. Those were some of my recommendations.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, as far as that's concerned. And you are correct that if any employee is going to be ignored, what people call "quote unquote" disrespected, it's going to be a black person that does it. That does it to another black person. We know packed away somewhere in our understanding that we perceive the black person, the black supervisor, is the weaker source. Is the weaker source. It may not be, from the standpoint the black person may be able to get some attention from a powerful white person, and they would deal with that employee. But for the most part, that's our concept, that I can say something nasty to another black person, whether they are on the same plane with me in employment or a supervisor. I can say it and somehow get away with it, but our understanding becomes very different when it's dealing with not only a white person that is in a supervisor position, a white person that's on your ranking level. We would be reluctant or very slow to attack them verbally, in that fashion. And the biggest issue is we still haven't figured out on how to solve the global problem when it comes down to it. I was thinking about saying something in regards to the Dade County Fire Department decision to only hire one black person, but it may be something that could be saved for Saturday, because there's a few of us that had a meeting on it, because there is going to be a meeting with the mayor of Miami-Dade County, who is a white woman. And that's all I have to say for right now. Thank you.
Fascinating. I guess we'll get the update. We talk about that all the time. They don't do no hiring of niggers in the fire department. Certainly we don't want no whole lot of Opalaka 3s and retired firefighters up in here reading the Malcolm X and telling us what's funny and all the rest of it. One was one too many. We done with all that. We hire white people now. That's the way we had it before. Way it's supposed to be. Apparently at all of the fire departments, that is the way it is supposed to be. Much obliged, retired firefighter in Florida. In fact, even reminded me, the L.A. Times, they had a report on the fire department. The culture of obedience runs deep. Says firefighters say they fear retaliation from bosses. This was in the L.A. Times like today. Says, as firefighter after firefighter testified about their actions during the Lackman fire, this is right before the big wildfire in 2025, a clear theme emerged: the Los Angeles Fire Department's culture of absolute obedience. One told a boss about red-hot coals and smoldering ash. Another warned that warm weather increased the risk of a flare-up. After taking their concerns to superiors, they gave up. It was not their job to make decisions like when to pack up their hoses and leave a fire that had mostly been put out. Mostly is not put out. Days later, that fire reignited into the Palisades fire, destroying thousands of homes and leaving a dozen people dead. I could have possibly prevented a lot of stuff if I would have been more outspoken, right? Firefighter Scott Pike testified in a lawsuit brought by Palisades fire victims. But that's not the right thing to do. The captains don't want to hear that. Pike's attitude reflects deep-rooted norms within the LA Fire Department not to question orders or to push back against higher-ups when something feels wrong or even dangerous, because doing so could invite retribution. Several current and former firefighters told the Times that it's often easier to keep their mouths shut than deal with ramifications of speaking up. Similar to law enforcement, which I found crazy because, like, wait a minute, they got the guns and you got a fire hose. Why is it similar to law enforcement? Fire departments are paramilitary organizations handling fast-moving life and death emergencies where there's often no time for debate. What's more, firefighters typically work 24-hour shifts and live with their crew at the station, cooking, eating, sleeping, and exercising together. Being ostracized isn't just losing the camaraderie of coworkers, it's losing a family. The culture of silence within the LAFD is common to fire departments around the country, said Laura Kavanaugh, a former head of the New York City Fire Department, who I suspect is classified as white. I could be wrong. They become like your second family, and so I think that loyalty is much greater, Kavanaugh said. Being on the outs can be truly detrimental to one's career, but also to one's health and ability to have a community. For those who don't stay silent, retaliation from bosses can come in the form of highway therapy, she said, when firefighters are reassigned to a station far from home. They may be passed up for promotions or labeled as troublemakers. And I'll pause there. This is, like I said, just in the LA. That's like the third report from the LA Times on the workplace today. I get read the LA Times, especially if you're in California. They have lots about racism in the workplace. That's where they had that report about Gavin Newsom, who said that 80% of the fast food workers were female and non-white in the state of California. LA Times. Anyway, we have our own troublemaker firefighter here. I guess I'll ask really quick, did that culture of obey, you don't ask questions, you don't even ask questions about, is the fire all the way extinguished? Is this safe? You sure we like, you don't ask questions, shut up. And if you do ask questions, they put you on the highway patrol and make you drive 2 hours out to go to a fire department, and maybe they make you drive to Jacksonville from Miami if you act up and make too much trouble. Did that experience, does that sound similar to what you went through during your time on the force, retired firefighter?
No, because I asked questions. and wasn't afraid to ask questions. But I can assume that others didn't react like I did, and there's only several others who would question things, and sometimes right at the moment, and not so much worry about the consequences that may come up, but I do think it is something that is, excuse me, something that is common on a job like that, because I remember hearing you stating that the fire department has a military connection, and I've never been into that form of military, but there are a lot of firefighters who has come from the military life to the fire service. Fire departments actually promotes that to take place. You actually have a favor to be able to get hired by you being someone who, quote unquote, as they say, served this country. But no, I've asked questions on some things that I thought was essential or very important.
Bravo. That's why he is part of the Opalaka 3, and that's probably why they'll say why we don't hire no niggers down here for the fire department in Florida. No question asking niggers down here, challenging everything we try to do on the fire department. Much obliged, retired firefighter in Florida. I say that though, ask questions. Very important, especially for a job where you could die. Jesus. Ask questions. That way we don't have no confusion and making assumptions. Let's make sure we understand. Nobody has any questions. Brilliant. Especially for an important job like G.O.W.S. Come on. Let's see. I'm going to sneak in one email. I've been looking for Bay Area mom, and I've not seen her. Now, I deliberately hung her up because we couldn't hear her. And I was saying I didn't know if it was something wrong with her phone or what have you, if she could even maybe not hear us. So I deliberately hung up her line thinking that she would immediately call back when she got disconnected, but I've not seen her on the switchboard. So hopefully she is safe, well, and hopefully we'll hear from her. But no sound. Wasn't coming out. Not sure what the issue was, but hopefully we will get Bay Area mom in there and she's safe. Email number 2. Our young lady who wrote in, hi Gus and Cow's audience. I had to be honest, I was so stressed and anxious that I had been overeating, but am addressing this alongside exercising. I am less angry this week, mainly because I made my decision to leave that team as soon as I get a new role, no matter what. I've been in Harry's division for 4 years, and it's been toxic all the way through. There are times when things seem to be improving, but I've never shaken off the damage the racist ex-manager did to how I'm viewed. Phoebe's always had an issue with me, the way most white women target black women in the workplace, even when they're not your manager or in the same team. And Harry is a gaslighting, hypocritical, duplicitous racist. He continues to practice racism. I had my performance appraisal this week. He asked us to email a brief note on what went well and why, what didn't go so well, and areas for development. I noted what I called handover anxieties as the thing that didn't go so well. He asked about this during my appraisal and asked me to reflect. I didn't want to spend time discussing the issue with him given his role in the problem. He started by asking if I was upset about the issue. I told him that I wasn't upset, but that I felt it was important to correct the false narrative, sidestepping his attempt to frame my response to their racism as emotional. He tried to get me to discuss how I could have handled the situation differently. Asked if he was suggesting that the behavior of right-wing Ashley and Amina was my fault. He said, no, that wasn't what he was suggesting, but that it was important to reflect on our own behaviors. I said I agreed, but The issues were not to do with my behavior or reflection, especially if the other people concerned, including managers, choose to ignore support and the direction given. I also reminded him that I offered to complete the process changes before I stopped working on the project. It wasn't something that he had asked me to do. This went on for a while, and I knew he was going to practice racism in his write-up. He wrote about the handover issues and followed it with a recommendation that I reflect on my leadership style. I asked for clarification and specific examples. His response was that he wasn't suggesting that I was to blame and that we had discussed reflection in the context of a leadership program that I've applied for. I asked that he reflect that in the write-up. He tried to get me to just sign off what he wrote because no one will be looking at it. Well, then why did they write these up if no one... I was under the goofy impression that they use this sort of thing when they evaluate your career, maybe when it's time for a raise, promotion, layoffs. Ignorant me, I thought this was important. Why even do it if nobody's going to read it? Silly me. I requested he made the change on the online system. He made a slight change, but it still has the same emphasis. He came back to say that it's legitimate to recommend that I reflect on my leadership of the handover. I asked for specific examples of how he thinks my leadership of the situation could have been better. The deadline for appraisals to be concluded is tomorrow. I have no intention of signing off on anything he writes. I do think that's important as well. Both components, when you have an appraisal, even if they try and lie to you and say, well, nobody's going to read it, it's not a... Even then, if something is not accurate to what you all have discussed and it does not accurately reflect your performance, like I said, sometimes this might determine, do you keep your job? Do you get a raise? All kinds of decisions based on what's on this piece of paper. This should be accurate, and I think that is tremendous. Outstanding work. Hey, sir, is it possible that we can get a sentence or language that actually reflects that we're talking about my desire to pursue leadership training and not that there was some sort of deficiency in how I managed this whole pitiful process with these lame, trifling white people? You can leave out the last part, but I mean, you get it. Brilliant. And you see, well... And even to lie and say something, well, nobody's really going to read it, What? So we just lie on it, say things that are not true, make omissions just because nobody's going to read it? If that's the case, hey, give me a perfect score. Nobody's going to read it. Perfect score. All perfects. Highest marks you can get. Nobody's going to read it. Not what I thought. 2 days ago, I got a message on Teams from right-wing Ashley asking if I'm still working on the project, as there's some correspondence that's come in. I ignored her. Then 4 emails, either asking me to clear documents or CCing me on communication with lawyers. I didn't open them and had no intention of communicating with right-wing Ashley. She knows I don't work on the project and didn't contact me all of last week, so I knew some shenanigans were afoot. I forwarded her emails to Isabel, who is her manager, and reminded her that Harry agreed I was no longer working on the project. Isabel didn't acknowledge my email, as per usual, but I didn't care. Right-wing Ashley CC'd me into another email this afternoon. It was to our boss, which I thought was strange, as it would need clearance before she did. That told me that Isabel, Phoebe, and Harry must have cleared it. However, Isabel and Phoebe were not on the email chain. Instead, I am, alongside Tristan, my boss, who is Phoebe's equivalent. Then I read the email from right-wing Ashley. It seems another complaint has come in from a company that's unhappy about how long the process has taken and the fact that their application has been rejected again. The shoddiness, the unprofessional, the incompetent. You know what I was thinking? And I said, you get in trouble. I was thinking, the neurodiversity. That's what I was thinking about. That you shouldn't say that. They said that's legitimate mental health concern. My apologies. But that's what I was thinking. Like, wow, hopefully this white woman will get her come. And again, it shouldn't just be her. Like, who hired her? They have whole committees of white people to sit down. Who read her application, asked her some questions, and heard her responses, and oh yeah, that is the one. She is going to be a massive asset to our team. Her neurodiversity? Like what exactly? Be specific. Great questions here as well. I say that sometimes that's the best defense we'll have. Just asking questions like where he was talking about her leadership. Can you give examples of where my leadership could have been better with right-wing Ashley? Oh, I wasn't trying to say you were deficient or nothing like that. wouldn't suggest, just, saying we all want to try and make improvement. Yeah, I didn't try to say that to say you get to backpedaling quick. Brilliant. Make sure you stay. Question. Let's see. Racist deception and sleight of hand. The application is one of several that right-wing Ashley and I inherited from Isabel's team. The backlog that Harry didn't know existed when Fred was managing the project. They undermined my ability to manage right-wing Ashley. She kind of undermined that herself, and are now attempting to blame me for the problem they caused. Isabel ignores me, so I'll ignore her, and right-wing Ashley is pretending that she doesn't know I no longer work on the project, which as a minimum means Isabel is not managing her properly. Regardless, I'm staying focused and applying for jobs. Focus. Love it. It's all so tacky. It is all so... all of this too. Oh, right-wing Ashley. She's not even supposed to be supervised. They said the people, apparently, they used to hire competent employees. Way back long time ago, dinosaur ages, they had employees who did all this work. They didn't need no black supervisor or supervisor period to come and hold their hand. You got it. We're going to get through this. Oh, don't do that. And then tell you 50 times, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, we're going to do it this way. Don't do that. It used to not be that way. They had competent employees, didn't need all that micromanaging. They could get the work done, and then we don't get in trouble and have the lawyers calling us, meetings. Why is it taking so long? Time is money. White people waste all that time practicing racism, because they could have kicked her off this project a long time ago. And I'm talking about right-wing Ashley. They could have booted her a long time ago. They wasted all this time. All this time. Time is money. Let's see. Much obliged for the email, all the folks who emailed us today. Other folks who wrote or dialed in, *61 non-Clemson grad, double O Dimples with us.
Hi, Gus. This is Mama C calling in a couple workplace racism stories. So the first one, it deals with comments from white women on social media business pages. So the first one, I work for like a doula collective, and some of the tasks that I'm responsible for is social media management. Well, April 11th through the 17th was Black Maternal Health Week, which is supposed to spread awareness about the disparities that Black birthing people or Black mothers they face, especially when they enter into the medical system. And so, I shared a video and then made some comments about if you are pregnant or birthing, or if you've had a baby, you can use the Earth app, which means birthing without bias. to find like pediatricians, doctors, all that kind of stuff that have received positive reviews from Black and other non-white families. And so I shared this post, and I received a comment on the business page, and the comment read from a white woman, "I'm so tired of this Black bleep, ish man, really." And I was just really disturbed by it. I have not responded to the comment, but I'm just going to leave it there. So it just makes me think that, a white person living in this society, they believe that all these statistics and all these experiences, real life experiences that Black people share, it's all made up and it's not real, and there are no disparities, there are no differences in treatment and accessibility. The second one, I'm a part of like a Black hikers camping outdoors group, and I'm one of the, leaders or admin in the group. And we received a post from a white person in the group claiming that, the name, the title of the group, because it says Black hikers, it's reverse racism. A bunch of Black people in the group, they scrambled with comments, and then other people reported the post. I immediately removed the post and, banned the person from the group, and just tried to restore some calm in the space, that it's a respected, protected space. That wouldn't normally be my response, but as a leader in the group, it seemed like the best action to take, not to alienate anybody who may feel partial to, members of the dominant society. So both of these comments came from white women, my favorite people in the whole world. But it just really gets me thinking about like the work that I do, whether it be organizing Black-owned businesses or black people to get outside, or trying to work towards like medical justice for Black people when they're giving birth to babies, or attempting to raise children in the society. It just makes me really frustrated. I did share a story about a little girl in Anderson, South Carolina, and it reminded me of, Black maternal health. It doesn't matter if you're a child, if you're a Black man, a Black woman, like you're not believed. But I think I won't speak more to that story because I think Gus has something planned regarding that story, so I will not speak to that any further. The last thing, this was very frustrating, very, very frustrating. And as we enter into the summer months, I just want to remind anyone who is going to be near water or in water, whether swimming or boating or just hanging out, if you don't know how to swim, please, please, please invest time, money. There are scholarships out there that you can look into for swim lessons for yourself, for your children, anybody in your family, especially if you have a pool or you're going to hang out by the water. So one of the things that I chose to do was to gain the skill as a lifeguard. And I had no interest in becoming a lifeguard and watching white people swim and play in the water and fool around all summer. But the reason why I decided to get this skill was it had the lifeguard water safety component as well as CPR first aid. So I did that way back in November. I did all the modules. It took me about a week to do it. I attended the course, and I passed. And so I was certified as a lifeguard. My objective was if anybody, any Black person was having, or non-white person was having a party, like a private party, I could assist them with supervision of their party. And I had that opportunity just a couple weeks ago, and there actually was somebody who was struggling in the water so much that I had to pull them out of the water. So that being my first, lifeguarding experience, I was very pleased with it, that I actually got to utilize my skills, to be able to supervise and assess the situation and rescue somebody in a way. And so the sad news about that is this week I found out that the instruction that I received was not complete, and because there was one piece during the CPR first aid that was missing, that my entire lifeguarding certificate or certification was invalid, and that I would need to retake 9.5 hours of the training all over again because this one component with a tool called the BVM, which provides oxygen to the victim that's being rescued during the CPR cycles, because that was not done. And I'm very frustrated with it, and I'm looking to recertify somewhere else, not through the Red Cross and not through this particular organization that certified me, looking to get a full refund, going back and forth with them why I don't deserve the full refund, even though, I paid money, completed the course for the certification. Clearly, my certification was not valid for the last 6 months, even though, I received documentation that it is. I just think it's super important if you are going to be a leader in any way on your job or, supervising children, supervising events and stuff, to make sure you are prepared for any medical emergency, particularly in the water. And with that, I will end my share.
She at least saved a life. Feel like that's worthy of applause. Like, wow, man, that's saved a life. I mean, is she even with the faulty training and all of that, which is worthy of frustration and lots of it. I said that time and energy, even with all of that, it just may have been, if she does not go through that training, maybe she doesn't hop in the pool when that young person was struggling. Maybe she doesn't hop in. Doesn't feel confident. I got this. I did the training. I got it. Might be a totally different outcome. Wow. And taking the training, faulty though it was, but taking the training not even for, I'm trying to do some moonlighting over the summer and do a little lifeguarding at the South Carolina pool and sneak out at the, lanes at Clemson, do a little none of that. Just black people, victims of racism, have a little shindig, pool party, hot South Carolina. I can make sure we're safe. Wow. Bravo. High commendation. Just that is a bummer. Now, I mean, it might even be, hey, she took the training, even though it was fraudulent, to save that young fella. It might be like, really, that young fella might be the one. Replace white supremacy with justice. And I wouldn't even be here if Mama C hadn't taken that old phony baloney training and Johnny I got it, back up, I got it. And then she didn't even have the proper certification, but I got it. I learned enough. I got it. Sit down. Saved his life, and then he ended up replacing white supremacy with it. That could happen. Amazing. Like, I don't know. I guess you can go back and get it, like, legit. So that way you got it in case something ever comes up. Like, no, I'm for real certified. I didn't go to no diploma mill or nothing like that. Like, I did everything. I took all the modules and did it twice, actually. And I've already saved somebody. So I'm like double certified. Wow. Best thing I've heard for the day, easily. Other than Dr. Welsing and Mr. Fuller's FBS, it'd be second best. But that's still pretty impressive. Like, wow. The social media, that reminded me of the caller at the courthouse in Florida, where he said, man, I go and I pay attention to what these white people put on social media, and I take my screenshots because they get on here and get. Also, it reminded me, our former guest, founder of Neutralizing Cosmetics, She had a whole business, entrepreneur, black female. She made a whole business and natural beauty products for black females, not all those chemicals and everything else, arsenic, and give you skin cancer and everything else. Take care of yourself, be healthy, natural ingredients that you can pronounce. She said just what Mama C told us. She said she had a web page and social media and all that stuff. And she said that her page would get overrun with all of these terroristic comments. I remember one, she said, I hope all black women get raped. That was one, and then, nigger this and blah, blah, blah. But she said this went on, this wasn't like a one-day thing. This went on and on and on. She would call the police and like, this is on grind. We aren't even designed to do all that. Nothing that you contact the website people, like, is this allowed? We can't do anything. And they would just get a new account and do the same thing all over again. Same thing. They weren't, we hate white people. Nothing like that. Just beauty products, conditioner, lotion, moisturizer, foundation. That's all. Natural beauty products for black females. All of that. So it is very common. I am not surprised at all. Promoting black maternal health, particularly with what we learned from medical apartheid. Black maternal health. We don't support that at all in a system of why are you having black children anyway? Have some more crackhead children and get more welfare? That's about, and that might even be some of the things that they're saying on, I don't know, but that's about what I would expect. Like, we do not support black maternal health here. And they tried to kill pregnant Serena Williams. I mean, we do not support no black maternal health at all in this part of the world. Like, never. The camping, she said she made the site for the black, or she's administrator. Maybe she didn't make it. She's administrator on the site for the promotion of the black campers. They did the same thing. Which I'm not surprised. Even accused them of being reverse racists. I am not surprised. I can only say, generally speaking, when individuals classified as white, when they see us being non-white people doing things that are constructive, even that's two right there. She didn't tell us that she was on there and down with whitey. We're going out camping and we're going to burn effigies of all these white race. She didn't say nothing like that. She just said, going out camping. Black maternal health. That's all we're talking about. She didn't say anything about, we hate white people. Got to talk about sisters. Just trying to make sure that black moms are healthy, black babies are healthy. Who's got a problem with that? Me? Racist man? And she's white women. I thought we supposed to be against patriarchy. I'm a mom. You're a mom. We got that in common. What do you mean I'm on here? Mad. Black maternal. Seen that sort of conduct before. What does it mean to be seen that with black businesses before? We're like, man, just what is all? Why? Dedication to white supremacy, and even just anything that is even remotely working constructive for black people, getting black people outside, get some fresh air, get some exercise, maybe see a moose. I talked about them, not in Alaska, not, they might kill you, but see a deer or something that won't kill you. Wow. Get away from white people. Wow. Hey, get away from J. Marion Sims statue, which I think they still got in South Carolina. Wow. Oh, nah, we don't want to, like, nothing that works against racism. So, that I do more of it. That's Mr. Fuller said that anytime that you're doing constructive, she didn't say she was out smuggling cocaine. She didn't say she was out running a scam using AI technology, trying to get black people to camp, trying to help pregnant black mommies be healthy. Do more of it. Absolutely. And I guess expect more of the terrorism from racists online as well. Good job getting rid of their content and keep it up with the work. Need more black doulas. Get out there. And the hospital system is certainly not designed for black health moms, babies, none of the above. So definitely more black doulas, more black midwives. That would be super helpful. Maybe even include a little bit about the importance of diet in pregnancy, so we're not going to McDonald's and all the rest of it. And it was Mama C, was that you? Did you have anything else you were going to share?
No, not at all. But thank you, Gus.
Keep up the great work. Saved a life. That is amazing. No, that would even make retired firefighter proud. He has told us so many times about pool safety, and I know it is heading towards the summer months and such, and warmer months for us all. And he talks about that all the time. Pools. I had never even thought of that, but yeah, if they have lifeguard training, if you have the time, and they're going to do it in a correct manner, so that you don't waste your time. She didn't waste her time and energy, though. Like, gee whiz. Like, I would be really upset about it being faulty, and then you got to go back and waste all that time about getting your refund, and they going to try and give me some nonsense about why I don't. I totally get that. Totally logical. But, wow. Like, she saved a life. That is amazing. If anything, I would say you generally, I think Fuller would even agree with me on this. Generally speaking, it is never a waste of time and energy if you are doing something constructive. Like, never. Even with all of that, she wasn't trying to get a job to begin with, and she accomplished her, even with all that, she accomplished her goal. They were having a party. She was there. She saved a life. That is a win. Total. Even if she's not able to do the course again and get the like for real certification, that is a win. That young fellow might replace white supremacy with justice, and she did exactly what the goal was. I can help some victims. They have a pool party. Whew. Mama C is pew, 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 pew. Have 00 dimples on my back, save a life, CPR. We get back to the party. We don't even need to call the police. We got it. Amazing. Bravo, Mama C. Bravo. Retired firefighter is proud. She's given us so many great PSAs over the years about swim safety in this time of year and being safe. Wow. Mama C to the rescue. Keep that in mind. You have a pool party in South Carolina. Mama C. We will be here tomorrow. Oh, my Lord. Oh, the Catherine White Women. Catherine Massey Book Club, Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, the offspring of a white woman, and she mentions her white mom in the book tomorrow. Everyone that I asked last week said they did not know when they read this book first time around, Michelle Alexander has a white mom. That right there, woo, man, changed the whole book. I haven't read this before, but I mean, I knew she had a white mom years before I even decided to flip a page in this book. Woo, white man, cannot wait. New Jim Crow. We're actually getting into the text this time around. Book is staying on the top 10 worst books ever. Cemented. Just, is it going to go higher than 6? We shall see. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Much obliged for folks tuning in, hopefully worthy of your Thursday evening counter-racist weekly review on Saturday. Maybe we'll hear more about the no more hiring troublemaker firefighters in Florida. It has what sobriety would be best. We need high-functioning brain computers, trying to have healthy mommies, healthy babies, model sobriety for them. Creator, we ask that you remind us, stop saying not all white people are racist. Your case looks really, really bad. You got white people out terrorizing a social media page for camping or maternal health. really hard sell, though. Not all white people is racist. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cows signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my condition. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.